is Adelaide Burton, and I'm also a senior at Mountain Brook. Consistent perfection is impossible. Inconsistent perfection is also impossible. In fact, anything close to perfection is impossible. I used to see God's love like a thermometer, moving one way for prayers and good deeds, and the other way for sins. But that's not how God sees us. In Luke, Jesus gathers with an audience of tax collectors and sinners, and when he sees Pharisees nearby, snickering about how he should not associate with these people, Jesus begins the parable of the prodigal son. A man splits his wealth equally between his two sons. The younger son takes the money, leaves, and quickly finds himself poor, hungry, and alone. The son feels ashamed and embarrassed, and he is prepared to beg and grovel for his father's forgiveness. But when he arrives home, his father throws his arms around him and orders a feast, celebrating his son's return. The older son watches this unfold, and he is confused because it seems like his younger brother's mistakes are being rewarded. "My son," the father said, "you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and be glad, because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found." It seems backwards that the older brother never does anything wrong, but his younger brother, who has squandered all of his money, gets the feast. That's what makes this parable so confusing. It's against the grain of our nature to forgive as easily as the father forgave his son. Often we focus on what seems like injustice that the older son is ignored, and we fail to see the father's joy that his son has returned and repented. The father loves his son unconditionally, just as God loves us. Our verse for Youth Sunday today from Ephesians says that the love of Christ surpasses all knowledge. Time and time again, God looks past our unavoidable sin and continues to shower us in love and grace. God calls us to be rooted in this same love, just like the father in the story. We aren't here to pass blame or pass judgment, only to love. God's grace allows us to make mistakes like the prodigal son, and God is always waiting for us when we come back. On the other hand, like the younger son in the parable, I sometimes turn away from the comfort, security, and promise of God because I think that I can do it on my own. The younger brother could not survive without the support of his family, just like how we can't survive without the support of God. Anytime I stray from God in thought or action, it's comforting to know that I can always be welcomed back with open arms. I grew up with two beagles who escaped our house any chance they got. Out of either curiosity or stupidity, the dogs wanted to know what life was like on the outside. Sometimes I would worry about whether or not they would come home, but my parents said that they would always come back because they know who feeds them. Just like my old dogs, if I intentionally or unintentionally stray from God, I always return because I know who feeds me, I know who loves me, and I know where I can find peace. God acknowledges our sin and imperfection, and God has the patience and mercy to watch us fail over and over and over again until we find our way back. And each time we renew our relationship with God, or even just acknowledge our distance, he welcomes us back again with open arms.